Overview of ERPsim manufacturing. Introduction to the manufacturing scenarios. The following module reviews the manufacturing simulation and how to go about facilitating sessions. Story. In the manufacturing simulation, participants manage a make-to-stock manufacturing company that sells muesli breakfast cereals to the German market. Specifically, participants manage all key decisions. They are responsible for the full business cycle, including planning, procurement, production, and the sales processes. The goal of the manufacturing game is to help participants learn the fundamentals of SAP navigation and experience the dynamic operation of SAP in a full cash-to-cash process. Teams start the game with a full inventory of finished goods and sufficient raw materials to replenish finished goods to their original inventory levels. Participants begin the process with the most fundamental elements: sales, marketing, tracking inventory, and observing sales. In the second round, they are introduced to the production process by releasing existing planned orders, using the raw material already in stock. Finally, they master planning and procurement, facilitating replenishment of raw materials. This carefully designed progression facilitates mastery of the full cash-to-cash process with relative ease. In Manufacturing Introduction, your participants sell 6 different muesli varieties in 1 kilogram boxes: nut, blueberry, strawberry, raisin, original, and mixed fruit. All finished goods are 1 kilogram, and each finished product requires 1 large box and 1 large bag. Your food raw materials are wheat, oats, nuts, raisins, strawberries, and blueberries. Rules and setup. Contrary to the distribution scenario, there are no extra warehousing costs in the manufacturing scenario. In the introduction scenario, you start the first round with 100,000 boxes for each variety and enough raw materials to produce new finished goods to that level for each variety. In the introduction scenario, participants are not allowed to change the bill of material of their products. Don't go overboard with marketing. Remember, it is a direct cost and so will have an impact on your profit. Generally, it is recommended that participants spend no more than 2 to 3% of their daily revenue in marketing. For the most part, functions required to operate the company, but which are not decisions, are automated by the simulator, such as receiving goods, sending payments to vendors, invoicing, and receipt of customer payments. This allows teams to focus on the more tactical and strategic aspects of operating their companies. Set up before the simulation. This is what you need to tell participants. Using the standard Bâton simulation ERPsim slides or your own custom ERPsim slides, explain what the simulation is, why the participants will be playing, and why it is relevant to their jobs. Using those slides, present the following information to your participants: what to expect from the session, the business processes covered by the scenario, the details of the marketplace and of the products, the rules of the simulation, and the different roles participants will have to play. Introduce roles and rules for round 1 and the related Fiori roles and tiles, which we'll discuss later on in this video. In the introduction scenario, we recommend doing 3 rounds of 30 minutes. You could run a 4th or even a 5th round if time allows it, but take the time in the first 3 rounds for people to master the different transactions, rules, and business processes of the game. As for the setup, the manufacturing introduction scenario generally consists of 1 minute per virtual day, 30 days per round, 3 rounds per game, for up to 8 rounds per game, 3 regions, 2 distribution channels, 6 products to manufacture, a starting inventory of 100,000 units per product, a production capacity of 25,000 units per day at 100% capacity, a supplier lead time of 1 to 5 days, a supplier payment time of 10 to 30 days, and the minimal time required is an estimated 3.5 hours to 4 hours. For more details on how to start and set up a simulation, review Module 3, which is Exploring Baton's Instructor Portal and Game Controller. Guiders and help. Using the Digital Acceleration Solution tool, we have embedded help directly within the Fiori Launchpad. Right-clicking any tile on the Launchpad activates a contextual menu, which we call Guiders, from which you can find step-to-step help regarding roles, how to complete transactions, and how to interpret analytics. There is also an FAQ where you can find answers to common questions. The FAQ is dependent on the page or transaction you are viewing. For example, if you are on the Fiori Launchpad, you will see the FAQs which are relevant to the Launchpad, general questions regarding the setup of the teams, the roles of the participants, a brief description of the scenario, and so on. On the other hand, if you are, for example, in the tile Marketing Expenses, the FAQ will relate specifically to marketing expenses. Finally, our process flow provides an interactive end-to-end overview which shows how downstream decisions affect upstream outcomes, and our notifications highlight key moments when user action is needed. This tool is particularly pertinent and useful in the manufacturing scenario due to the scenario's higher level of complexity. Differences between scenarios. The manufacturing introduction. The introductory manufacturing game can be played in a single 3-hour session. By playing, the participants will quickly acquire the necessary skills for using the few transactions needed to manage sales. At the end of round 1, most teams will have run out of finished goods and will be eager to learn how to produce additional finished goods. By the end of round 2, they will be ready to learn how to replenish raw materials inventory. In manufacturing introduction, companies start with 100,000 units of each of the 6 finished goods. These include nut, original, strawberry, blueberry, mixed, and raisins, as well as the raw material sufficient to produce an additional 100,000 units of each product. In round 1, companies sell their initial stock by adjusting their selling price and marketing strategies. In round 2, companies produce new finished goods from existing inventory of raw materials, converting existing plan orders to production orders. In round 3, companies replenish their raw materials to the initial 100,000 units per product, and as time permits, adjust their forecasts to above or below 100,000 units. Manufacturing short. Manufacturing short was created as a condensed version of manufacturing introduction. Slight changes have been made to assure the competitive aspect of the simulation, but otherwise the other parameters remain the same. In manufacturing short, companies start up with 96,000 units of 4 finished goods. These are nut, strawberry, blueberry, and raisin, as well as raw materials sufficient to produce an additional 96,000 units of each product. In this scenario, we recommend doing 3 rounds of 20 minutes. This scenario is meant to be played in less time than the manufacturing introduction scenario. You could even choose to do only 2 rounds and advise the participants to start producing by the middle of round 1. Manufacturing extended. Please note that manufacturing introduction is a prerequisite for playing the manufacturing extended scenario. In the manufacturing extended scenarios, companies have access to all decisions and transactions from the start of the game. Companies begin with no inventory of finished goods and raw materials. They must plan their future sales through forecasts, replenish raw materials, produce their finished goods, manage their prices, and invest in marketing. They can also manage cash flow, change the BOM of finished goods, and invest in equipment and production efficiencies. Sales and marketing begin only after the company has received raw materials and successfully started production. Companies begin with 8 million euros of debt, a production capacity of 21,000 units per simulated day, and a setup time of 12 hours to switch between muesli varieties. Participants can invest to increase their production capacity, to reduce the setup time between the production of different products, or repay their loan to lower bank interest. While there isn't an unlimited line of credit, management of cash and debt will affect credit rating and interest rates. Teams can redesign their finished products by changing the bill of material, making premium or budget varieties. The extended manufacturing game offers a complex set of rules designed to offer more challenge for more advanced teams. Teams begin by setting strategy, product design, such as recipes and box sizes, investments in production capacity, investments in the reduction of setup time, and loan repayment. They must also make tactical decisions concerning pricing, advertising, production, and reordering scheduling. The parameters are set so that one firm cannot do everything well at the same time. Teams must choose what they want to focus on and adapt their investments and organizations accordingly. The extended version of the manufacturing game can be played for up to 12 rounds of 20 minutes. 4 rounds is typically long enough. It is strongly recommended that enough time is allowed between rounds to help participants analyze data and reflect on their strategies. The extended manufacturing game is designed to be a challenging game. Because of the complexity of the game, we cannot expect participants to master the game in one iteration. The game should be played multiple times. In each iteration, teams will deepen their understanding, refine their strategy, improve their execution, and expand their use of competitive analytics. 1909 Overview Tiles. Within the manufacturing game, many of the Fiori tiles and reports will look and behave much like they do within the distribution game. As you start practicing your first manufacturing game session, the similarities will help you navigate the simulation. Once you are familiar with this game, you will find that the manufacturing processes require more strategic understanding than the distribution game. As an example, the distribution game is forgiving if you execute MRP often, whereas MRP in the manufacturing game is not forgiving. Within the manufacturing game, you order raw materials and then manufacture the finished goods for sale. Why is this more complex? MRP is at the core of the complexity. Effective running MRP requires complete understanding of planning, procurement, production, and sales. With our release of S/4HANA 1909, we have implemented overview tiles. We review these tiles in detail for each of our respective scenarios, as they are different for each scenario and each role. But in short, they are dashboards which contain all the necessary elements needed to engage with the simulation. We will go into detail for each tile later in this video when we begin to discuss each round's gameplay. Instructional tips and tricks for manufacturing. When to start or pause and what to say. In this section of the module, we will review a potential agenda for how you should go about running the simulation as an instructor. Setup during the simulation. We recommend following this agenda. A 20-minute overview and instructions. 30-minute system introduction, such as login, short navigation, and so on, and Q1 concepts. 30 minutes of play of Q1. 20 short debrief of Q1 and introduction to Q2 concepts. 30-minute play Q2. A 30-minute break, a short debrief of Q2, and an introduction to Q3 concepts. 30 minutes of play of Q3. and finally a 20-minute final debrief. While participants are playing the simulation, it is highly recommended to routinely pause and review major concepts with your participants. Checking in provides an opportunity for you to review the reports found in the game controller, speak to the progress of the various teams by reviewing the leaderboard, as well as ask troubleshoot and answer pertinent questions that participants may have. Reports. Useful information. There is a lot of useful information in the game controller. The following reports will help you interpret how the simulation is progressing and provide details regarding team performance each time you are debriefing. Leaderboard trend. The leaderboard trend shows the evolution of the team's ranking based on their cumulative profit. End of round results. This report is updated only at the end of the last day of each round. It presents the metrics used to evaluate the performance of the teams and their ranking based on their profitability. The drop-down allows you to check the results for previous rounds. Unless the column's name contains round, the values you see are cumulative for all previous rounds. Profit and loss. This report presents the revenues and spending of each team. Given that the ranking is based on net income, this report allows you to monitor how the teams are doing. You will also be able to review their expenses, including the marketing spent. You can either see the report for the current round or have a cumulative view for all previous rounds. Balance sheet. The simulation requires several financial transactions to be posted before the simulation begins. An initial capitalization of the firm through both equity and liability and the acquisition of assets, such as land, building, and equipment. These transactions are executed through postings to balance sheet accounts. Typically, you do not need to monitor this report during gameplay. Inventory. This report shows you the inventory on hand for each product and each team. Monitor this report closely to ensure your participants are not selling out too fast and that most of your teams still have inventory. If most teams are out of stock, you can think about pausing the game to show them how to replenish. This report will also display the raw material inventory. Price and marketing. This report is very useful during the game as it will show you the current set prices for each team for each of their products. You can easily monitor the prices to make sure the teams are not selling under cost. The report also shows the current daily marketing spent as well as the cumulative marketing spent for each product in each region and for each distribution channel if that's applicable. Keep in mind we recommend that participants spend no more than 2 to 3% of their revenue in marketing. Through this report, you can easily get an idea of their current spending. You can switch teams at the top of the report as you can only see one team at a time. Purchase report. Through this report, you can track purchases being completed by the team. This is a very important report to monitor as it indicates when a team is struggling to complete the procurement process. For example, if this is the case, you will not see any orders from them. Use the columns creation date and good receipt date to track when the teams should expect to receive their new inventory. The dates used in those columns are the real dates, which are visible on many views, including the game controller status, the viewer, and on the first tile of the participant's launchpad.